I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Kirkman, will you please read the statement?
This is a meeting of the Township of Vernon for September 22nd, 2014. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 8th, 2014. It was posted on the municipal building and on the municipal website, all in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Page?
Here.
Councilmember Murphy?
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Here.
Council President Lynch?
Here. Will you all join me with a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening on the agenda, the very first thing we're going to do is have a proclamation. And I would like to ask if Chief Scott Semchezin of the Highland Lakes Fire Department and Chief Joe Byra from the Vernon Fire Department please come forward. Mayor, would you join us? Chief? President? Mayor? Whereas being a firefighter is a very satisfying profession that is highly respected by children and adults alike. And whereas the firefighters stand for all that is good in our society, which is why they are the one of the few occupations to be welcomed into your homes without an appointment. And whereas communities rely on firefighters to solve many types of problems ranging from fires, floods, traffic accidents, and hazardous material incidents, and more. Whereas firefighters go through a rigorous training program so they can follow their dreams to serve their communities with the knowledge that the other members of their team have been equally trained and will look out for each other. And whereas despite human instinct to run away from a fire for fear of being injured, firefighters are the only ones who run towards a burning building as they are willing to risk their lives for complete strangers regardless of race, creed, color, or socioeconomic status. Whereas bells across America will be held during National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend, held on October 11th and 12th, to honor those fallen heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And whereas Vernon Township has been very fortunate to not lose any firefighters in the line of duty while serving with our departments, Highland Lakes, McAfee, Pochuck Valley, and the Vernon Fire Department. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and the council of the Township of Vernon that it does hereby recognize all fallen firefighters. The reason why I asked the chiefs to be here tonight is to thank them for their leadership, and it's a testament to your leadership that we haven't had any reason to go to the Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend because of something that happened in Vernon Township. Although our hearts go out to all fallen firefighters and their families, we would like to say thank you for your leadership, and I know that the mayor has a few words as well.
We are truly fortunate, people like yourself. You know, you two gentlemen represent a very large number of people. Volunteer in Vernon Township, to go to the courses and to do the training and do the work and really ask nothing in return. It's a great idea that the council has decided to recognize Bells Across America, and I think we can extend that to all of our emergency service volunteers. We're blessed to have them. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Vernon Township holds its own memorial service, and it'll be held on October 13th at the Vernon Firehouse. And what is done then, we have a memorial over there. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's a very prestigious stone with the names of every firefighter that has served. And when it was their time to go behind the sun, their name was placed on the plaque. So with all those who have gone before, we would like to say thank you, and a testament to their life, we give them a round of applause. The other chiefs have training tonight, that's why they were probably not here. Would you please hand that out to McAfee and hand out the coach up ballot. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comments?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Rizzuto. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The floor is open to all who wish to speak.
My name is Krista Gary, and first I'd like to state that some of the articles that have appeared against Dan and Carol Kadesh were very offensive, and they should never have been written. I also want to say that Sally Rinker and all the members of the Vernon Taxpayers Association are a courageous group of individuals. They never fail to inspire me. They stepped on the stage not knowing if they would succeed or fail, but they did it because they knew in their hearts it was the right thing to do, and they will persevere. The petitioners of the Camp Sussex application will be at the Supreme Court in Morristown on Friday to defend their case. Sometimes I wonder to what extent a person would go to achieve their agenda. Power should always be in the hands of the people. That's how our forefathers designed the Constitution. God holds tomorrow in his hands, and only he knows what the final outcome will be regarding the many issues that are facing Vernon. I want the residents of Vernon to know that I believe in our cause and hope that they realize the importance of what we are doing. Contrary to stories that are being told, there's no political agenda against the mayor or anyone on the town council. Unfortunately, there are some who are trying to get back at Sally Rinker and her associates. You can't keep holding a grudge. Revenge is too heavy a weight for anyone to bear. You need to forget and let go. Regarding Camp Sussex, drugs are a problem throughout the United States, and they affect all classes of society. Camp Sussex, a very remote place, was never of much interest to the youth in this town. Perhaps it may now be due to all the unwanted publicity that it has received. I have never heard of anyone wanting to go to an isolated place such as Camp Sussex to do drugs or to have sex. Drug use can occur anywhere teens assemble. Very often it occurs in their own home. Before we start casting blame on Camp Sussex, what about parents who take prescription medicine or alcohol to feel good? What kind of message are they sending to their children? When my husband and I moved to Sussex County, we won some tickets to an outdoor event at Action Park, and I can still remember the sweet smell of marijuana wafting in the air. Another time while living in McAfee, I received a phone call from a neighbor asking me if I would drive to Vernon High School as her son was caught in school distributing drugs. I had heard from a friend that you would see kids doing drugs in the girls' bathroom at Pope John in Sparta. All drugs have the capacity to kill, not just heroin. We all need to be aware of this and never think this won't happen to my child, because yes, it could happen to your child. It's a tragedy if it does. We need to reach young people before they become addicted to any drug, including alcohol. Going through the teen years and sometimes beyond can be difficult for many people. Knowing what your teenagers are doing and whom their friends are is very important. Children learn from their parents, as they are the most important role models. Hopefully, by seeing their good example, it will have a positive effect on them. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no other members of the public are coming forward, can I please have a motion to close the public comments? Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second? Just go right ahead. Hang on a second, Kevin.
No, after the vote.
Okay. Second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Kevin?
Thanks. Ms. Gary, thank you for just reminding me what I had just heard very late today, and that is that tomorrow's court hearing in the initiative petition, I understand, has been adjourned by the judge until sometime on Friday. I don't have a time on Friday, but for anybody planning to go tomorrow, 11? Thanks. That do not go to court in Morristown tomorrow at 11 o'clock to see this case. Wait until Friday, please, at 11 o'clock. Thanks.
Just before the mayor's report, I just have one thing to announce. Due to the horrific event yesterday in Apshua with the bear attack, I would like to announce that Vernon Township clerk had asked if she could put these pamphlets out there, what to know the bare facts, and it gives you the information you need if you were to come across the bear here in Vernon Township. Our hearts and prayers go out to the family of the deceased hiker. So, Mayor?
Thank you. At the beginning of the evening, I passed to you the year-to-date budget summary, which I give each, at the end of each month. We are 2/3 of the way through the year. I think in general, we're pretty much on target as to exactly where we thought we would be. Always wish that revenues were higher, but they are what they are. I don't anticipate that we're going to run into any major problems by the end of the year, at least any that can be foreseen. So anyone who has questions, as always, I'm available to answer them specifically for you. The second item on the agenda is some really, I think, really good news. I hope the council will agree. As you know, we've gone through the process for, in fact, refunding the $5.1 million bond and refinancing it. The final numbers are in. The bonds have been purchased. The net savings to Vernon Township, as you will recall, we had projected it at $295,000. It actually is $348,000, $132.13. So it's a little bit more than a tax point. I think that our financial staff deserves a round of applause. That's big money.
Very good.
I also, if you would bear with me, like to take this opportunity to ask Corey Stoner, Vernon Township's engineer, to come forward. There are actually 4 items on this evening's consent agenda that I thought you might like to have a specific rundown. And so, if I may, Corey?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? Yeah, Vic asked me just to come and give you the explanation of a couple of the ordinances, or the resolutions that are on, I'm sorry. If you look in your list, there's 14-154 through 157. The first 2 of them are 154 and 155, have to do with the authorization of funds toward Breakneck Road Phase 1. The way the resolution is worded, I've asked if we award a contract. The first one would be to Denville Line Striping using Morris County Co-op contract number 36, and the second one would be contract number 6 for Tilcon, New York. The condition I have in the resolution is I want to make the recommendation award contingent on the final DOT approval. We're going through the DOT approval. I expect to have it any day, but I just didn't want to hold us off until late October, and then we're getting into issues of paving in November, and I'd rather be paving in October, obviously. What we're doing with this project is instead of bidding out a project as one large project to one contractor, we're looking at breaking into smaller parts where we're used to get a better bang for a buck. We're used a co-op for the milling and paving, used a Morris County Co-op, that is, Morris County Co-op for Denville line striping to do all the line work. But I am going to bid out separately the guide rail work and work related to the raised pavement markers, or the markers in the, if you go up the roadway, they don't work very well anymore, but they're the reflectors in the pavement. Not going to do that through the Morris County Co-op because they're just not a good price. From our experience, the pavement, you can't touch the asphalt prices by competitively bid it. It's been competitively bid to the co-op, but the guide rail is double what you're going to pay if we go out individually. So we're going to go individually on that, and then you'll see us back in October for a resolution to do 2 other awards will be related to guide rail and raised pavement markers, but they can go a little later. I need to get a schedule for the paving operations. The first one is for line striping. That's 154. That's a total price of $14,167.50. And the second one's Tilcon for $362,743. The total estimated cost when we started the project is probably about $520,000. I thought we'd come in. My estimate now is about $485,000. I think we're about $30,000 to $40,000 less by doing it this process. A little harder. For myself, I got to work as a general contractor, but in the end, we'll save a lot more money by using the co-op than to go out to an individual contractor. The third one on the list that I want to talk about is 14156. Is the authorization to use the Morris County Co-op contract number 6 for proposed improvements to Upper Plateau and Murphy Court. I'm sorry, that's proposed road resurfacing. Upper Plateau and Murphy Court is related to the old Whispering Woods, Woodmont Homes subdivision off of Highland Lakes Road. If you recall that one there, the developer went bankrupt, and we pulled the bonds. We ended up pulling the bonds for improvements. We were back in the summertime, we did some drainage improvements, for about $35,000 worth of drainage improvements in that subdivision with the bonds. This will pave Upper Plateau to Murphy Court and Murphy Court to the top of the hill. It will not address the lower part. If anybody's been on those roads, they were destroyed through rain events back 4 or 5 years ago. But it'll get the majority of the roads improved for the homeowners that live there, and that's using funds that are already in place from the developer bonding. That uses up most of the money that was in that for the bonding, but it does get the roadway resurfaced almost in its entirety except for the lower half. And that'll stay blocked. If you've been up there, it's blocked with barricades, and it'll have to stay that way until the homeowner association comes up with the money to finish. Right now, we're doing what we can with the money that we have available. And then the fourth one is 14157, has to do with acceptance of performance bond for Aqua, New Jersey. The last year or two, they've been doing water main work in the Cedar Ridge section of town. They're going to continue on phase 3 and 4 for water main replacement along Woodland Drive, Susan Court, Carr Lane, and Kristen Place. They're looking to start this week. The performance guarantee, I don't have the dollar amount in front of me, but is for $357,000, their estimated cost. That's basic pavement restoration. If for some reason they would stop work, we have the bonding, be able to pull the bond so we can fix the roads that they disturbed. We did that for the first 2 phases. It's worked nice. I think made major improvements to our water system in that area. And this phase 3 and 4, I think, almost completes all the water improvements that Aqua, New Jersey is planning for that section of town. So this is a good thing, if you ask me.
Has the pavement work on the previous projects for Woodland, in the Woodland area, have they been up to your standard as far as the resurfacing goes?
Well, they did the repairs. I have to do another inspection before we release the bond.
Okay.
They have a performance guarantee, maintenance guarantee that's in place still. We haven't let them release that bond, so we have to do another one. They basically they've repaired strips.
Right.
If you go up in that area, they were, if they went down the right side, we worked with them to try to minimize disturbance to the roadways. The roadways are pretty poor shape to begin with in the community, but we try to have the right side of the road or the left side of the road and not right down the middle and destroy the whole road. It just, for funding purposes, I think it's the best we're going to get out of that. When they went through construction, you were lucky to have 2 inches of asphalt in places on that road. There's very poor construction practices in there. So
There's a solid base there?
the base was solid. The base, anything that they repair, they're actually filling up the trenches with stone. So they're not putting the excavated material, they're not putting it back in the trench, so they're putting stone replacement. So and I know the best part of the road is where the trench is.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's all I have. Any questions?
I have a question. The resurfacing over on Murphy Court, is that?
Upper Plateau.
Upper
Murphy?
Plateau, Murphy?
Yep.
Is that where the vacant land is, or are there homes there? I haven't been up there in,
Yes, there's lots. That subdivision has, I believe, 9 lots that still have not been sold.
and I just bring that up again because my broker has those listed for sale. So I'm just questioning, should I vote on this? Is it a conflict? I have no vested interest in anything, so I'm just questioning council.
I think the resolution, I think.
Excuse me.
No, I'm just-
I'm not choked up. No conflict.
Just,
It's not a conflict at all.
just want to bring it up. That's all.
The only comment I have is it is using funds that were, set aside in the bonding, from
But I just-
the handlers that owned it, so I don't know the homeowner association position with the banks that are, owning the land. I don't know how that works.
I just wanted on the record that.
Okay.
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay. So the first two, like I said, is for Breakneck. We'll be back next month with 2 other approvals, but if, once we have the DOT approval in hand, we're going to award that. Tilcon has it tentatively scheduled for the second week in October to go start paving, so it's only 2 or 3 weeks away.
Now, the one question I have about Breakneck Road is the residents of Highland Lakes are concerned about the passing lane on Breakneck Road, and I'm aware that any steep grade needs to have a creeping lane
Yes.
on one side. A more defined creeping lane would be absolutely wonderful.
Well, what we're doing different than what's out there now, basically the lanes are going very similar back to where they are. But we're going to be using, some of the improvements are going to put into long life traffic stripes. What we've been painting up there now is latex stripes that last about a year, and then they fade. Long life traffic stripes will get more years use out of it. You'll get the new pavement markers in the
Cat's eyes
lane.
that go in, yeah.
And I also have reflectors for the guide rail. The guide rail today has no reflectors on them. We're gonna be replacing a couple sections. If you go down the hill, you know what I'm talking about. There's a couple sections that have been beat up pretty bad. We're gonna be replacing that first main section especially. But the whole run of guide rail is gonna have reflectors on the guide rail, so they'll help with visibility at night. And I'm working with Dave Pullis with the signage. Some of the signage is out of date, or just, if you like, for instance, chevrons. Some of the chevrons are pretty low. They're going to be moved up. We're going to put new signs as well. So it's basically safety oriented. The lanes are going to stay where they are, but we're going to try to make so everybody can see them a lot better.
It'll be a welcome project when it's finished, that's for sure.
And that project, so, it starts at 5:15 and takes us up to Highland Lakes Road, 638. During construction, there'll be some partial closings. It's good, real difficult to keep lanes open and try to pave that mountain at the same time. So traffic control, we have hours in the project for the use of your police forces to do the traffic control. We're not relying on contractor flagmen. I think it's very important for traffic safety to have the police involved in this, just like we did for Canistee Road and some of
Sure.
the others. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council?
Mayor?
Thank you. I do have one last item in the mayor's report I'd like to call to your attention, and it relates to Resolution 14-152. As you will recall, that ordinance is in the amount of $14,139, which was the removal and remediation of the underground oil tank that was found over by the animal control. Today, we were informed that the test showed that there was groundwater, and so we have to drill a well. The cost from the contractor that is remediating, that was quoted, if my memory serves me right, is just below $4,000. So you will be seeing another authorizing contract because we have to meet the requirements of the DEP.
Is that covered under any insurance that the town has?
No. Not as far as I know. We can certainly look at it
Is that-
later on, but I haven't seen any insurance companies.
I'm only, because you said that they have to test the groundwater? Is that what you said?
No, I said that there was water detected in the soil. The DEP wants a well. They want a monitoring well. So that's what we're getting.
There's water in the soil
soil.
or oil?
Water.
There was water and oil, both.
Ah, okay.
I mean, the oil was discovered apparently early on, Dan, but apparently when they trucked it out and they tested and they burn it off and whatever, there was moisture, so.
Okay, but
Now we
then
need to drill
basically
a
there
well.
was pollution that has to be burned off or monitored, not
Again.
just water in the ground.
No, thank goodness. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, this evening, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2014 regular meeting?
So move.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Wetzel.
Councilmember Cady?
Yes?
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
I was not present at one meeting, and I forget, oh, no, that was the September meeting, yes. Consent agenda, please. The resolutions, 14152, authorizing a contract with Above Environmental Services Incorporated for underground storage tank remediation and investigation services in the amount not to exceed $14,139. As previously reported, an underground tank was discovered during the Animal Control Building renovation project. This resolution authorizes the award of the contract to Above Environmental for the remediation of the tank. Resolution 14153, authorizing a contract for a term August 13th through December 31st, 2014, for recording secretary for the Land Use Board in the amount not to exceed $1,500. The secretary to the Land Use Board retired earlier this year. This resolution authorizes Colleen Ragnetti to serve as the Land Use Board secretary for the remainder of 2014. Resolution 14154, authorizing the use of Morris County Co-op contract number 36 for traffic striping for proposed improvements for Breakneck Road Phase 1. The township is making improvements to Breakneck Road. This resolution authorizes the award of a contract to Denville Line Painting through the Morris County Co-op for line striping for Phase 1 of this project. Resolution 14155, authorizing the use of Morris County Co-op contract number 6 for proposed improvements to Breakneck Road Phase 1. Similarly, to Resolution 14154, this resolution authorizes the award of the contract to Tilcon New York Incorporated through the Morris County Co-op for the road resurfacing of Phase 1 project. Resolution 14156, authorizing the use of Morris County Co-op contract number 6 for road resurfacing for Upper Plateau and Murphy Court. As the township has previously discussed, Upper Plateau and Murphy Court are in need of repair due to damage caused by a previous contractor. The township has called the bond in order to facilitate these repairs. This resolution authorizes the award of contract to Tilcon New York through the Morris County Co-op for the resurfacing of the roads. Resolution 14157, acceptance of a performance bond from Aqua New Jersey Incorporated for roadway repairs for Phase 3 and Phase 4, water main replacement along Woodland Drive, Susan Court, Carr Lane, and Christine Place. Aqua New Jersey has provided a bond in conjunction with the water main work that they will be doing on the previously mentioned streets. It is the recommendation of the township engineer to accept the bond. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of the bond by the township. We have a motion to adopt resolutions 14152 through 14157.
Move.
Second motion made by Councilmember Kate, is second by Councilmember Rizzuto. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cady?
Yes?
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 14152.
Okay. Second reading of ordinances. Ordinance 14-16. An ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, and the State of New Jersey, establishing the eligibility of redevelopment projects within the designated areas in need of redevelopment for 30-year tax exemptions and abatements pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law, NJSA 40A:20-1 et seq. Before Vernon Township can enter into any agreements with the developer, an ordinance is required enabling that contractual agreements can be struck in the redevelopment zone. This is the enabling ordinance for that process. May I have a motion? Before we have anything, I ask if council would brief us.
Sure. We, as the council knows, we had a work session to review this ordinance last week. During that work session, there were a number of items discussed. Coming tonight, I'm going to recommend two minor changes to the ordinance to you. One, Mr. Kadish brought up with me on a couple of occasions, and it's a phrase in paragraph 9, and it essentially sets the default and cure period at 90 days. This would later be built into a financial agreement, but the sentence sort of unnecessarily said 90 days to cure any default unless the financial agreement provides otherwise. And I heard the comment a couple times, and I think the words "unless the financial agreement provides otherwise" could be stricken. It doesn't change the meaning of the sentence, it doesn't have any substantive value, but I think Mr. Kadish's point was probably correct, that it could potentially prevent any ambiguity going forward.
John, does that also include paragraph 8?
Just give me 1 second. I think it has slightly different meaning there. Depending on the type of the project, you're going to build in conditions that have to be followed, and you're going to build in cure periods in your financial agreement. The one in 9 is clearer because in that case, you're talking about the most direct of them. You're talking about not making the payment, and then the 90-day period kicks in. So it would be my recommendation that you would strike that clause from 9, but leave it in 8 for that reason. And then the other thing that I would recommend is in 9, it clearly defines the cure period as 90 days, and then later on in the paragraph refers to the cure period. It has a parenthetical that says, following the 30-day cure period, and that should have been 90. Both should be 90 to be consistent. So those are two recommendations that the council can consider in adopting the ordinance. The clerical change referencing the 90 twice, I would strongly urge you to make, because you wouldn't want to have two different periods there, and the 90-day was clearly defined. And with respect to unless the financial agreement provides otherwise, that's optional, but I do think making that clerical change has value. And so those are the comments that I would make in advance, and of course, happy to answer any questions further.
As you know, we brought up many times the difference between an up to 30-year as opposed to a 30-year. That is not being changed.
Mr. Kadish, as discussed at the work session, I indicated to you that you could change it, but it's the prerogative of the council.
You have to make a motion later.
After further research, I took a look at that, and I think that it would not be in our best interest to go up to 30 years. And the reason why I say that is because if the tax abatement, if the pilot project goes below 30 years, the tax revenue that Vernon Township would receive would be a lot less.
I disagree. I still think that the wording in there should be up to 30 years, because once Mountain Creek comes in with their agreement, that'll be a separate agreement. That'll have to be
I-
negotiated.
I certainly understand your point, but it's a fact that we would receive less tax revenue because of it if we go under 30 years.
Doesn't say we're going under 30 years, it's the wording in this ordinance. It's just the wording in this ordinance.
I would think that the contract would be ambiguous then, each and every time we have something like this come forward, if there were more than one rule.
Well, this ordinance, from what John Urson said, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you said it was an enabling ordinance that does not necessarily have to be done when you're doing these programs. But we're doing it. We're doing it as an extra layer.
You're sure, it is not required.
Right.
You're doing it as a best practice, and I think all of you on the council are aware, there was a report from the State Controller's Office that was very analytical of tax abatement programs. And there was some criticisms of tax abatement programs in there. So I can tell you that I'm pretty motivated to try and give you advice that addresses those issues in there. And one of the issues recommended in the state report was that there be a uniform application process and enabling ordinance established in advance to make the procedure clear.
Correct.
So you're absolutely right. This is not required. It's a best practice.
Right, and then to some degree, from what I'm told, it also gives the potential investors of Mountain Creek some comfort knowing that the town, the council, is somewhat supportive of their project, should they decide to invest.
I would imagine that's an important factor.
So that is one of the things, but as far as I can see, for the best interest of the town, it should say up to 30 years. We have not seen an agreement with Mountain Creek. We have not seen anything come from them yet. We don't know what's been negotiated. And if this is an ordinance that's specific, it should be specific to Mountain Creek. I mean, going through some of the language from even my conversations with you, this ordinance was pretty much written for the Mountain Creek redevelopment area.
It was certainly written in response to the proposal, the project, and those discussions, no
Right,
question.
so not only do I believe that it should be for up to 30 years, I also believe that it should be specific to just this one redevelopment zone, the Mountain Creek redevelopment zone, that it does not come into play with any other future redevelopment zones. Because it was written for that.
Sure. I understand the point. I'm sort of repeating the same answers I gave at the work session, so I apologize
right.
for that a little bit.
That's fine.
From where that's a council prerogative, so you have to discuss that and debate that.
Right.
From where I sit, what I see is that projects of this magnitude just simply don't come along very often. I don't know of a town in Sussex County or the surrounding rural areas that have had two long-term tax abatements. Surely if you went to the east and went to urban areas, we would really be having a different discussion, a different analysis. But this ordinance is designed to enable the application process for the project that's before you, and just on law of averages, based upon a survey of Western Jersey, it's unlikely, certainly in the near term, that you're going to be using this ordinance again.
Right, but you, in fact, have never done, this is your first long-term ordinance that you've worked on.
So this is the first long-term enabling ordinance that we've done.
Right, that you've done. But those are, as far as I'm concerned, those are changes that I think are imperative to this ordinance. Up to 30 years, and designating this ordinance specifically for that one redevelopment zone, that it does not come into play with any other potential redevelopment zones.
Okay, would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Well, should we be including the changes that John suggested?
We have to handle them separately because they are.
Because, so you could
actually-
vote for them separately, I know.
Those are actually just typographical errors mostly.
Well, there's
No, I
just-
think John said that the other day. We already addressed that also, that the up to 30 years would just be a clerical. That was
Oh,
discussed in the
okay.
work session.
Then we'll do it all in one.
No, I don't think so.
Pat does not want to do it all at once because he'd like to vote down one portion of it and vote
Well,
for one portion of it.
Absolutely. I don't happen
Okay.
to agree with you, Mr.
Well, no, I'm not, I'm just explaining it to Brian to save you the
I don't
trouble.
think Brian needs any explanations. I think he's quite capable of figuring that out himself.
Anyway, my motion would be to encompass the items that you recommended in number 9, and then also for have it to be up to 30 years in there's at least three different areas in this ordinance where it reflects 30 years. It should say up to, and then that this ordinance should only be specific to this one Mountain Creek redevelopment zone and not to, anyway, there's my motion.
I'll second
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kadesh?
it. Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
No,
Councilmember Wetzel?
I think we're splitting hairs here.
Councilmember President Lynch?
No. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to make the changes, the first two changes that John spoke of, where he referenced Councilmember Kadesh, and they are,
To be specific, it is in paragraph 9 to strike the clause, comma, unless the final financial agreement provides otherwise, and to correct the second reference of the 90-day cure period, which was referred to as 30.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
I just made that motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Rizzuto.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
No.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
Yes.
Motion carries to amend.
Okay. May I have a motion open to the public hearing, ordinance 1416?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If anyone would like to come forward?
Yes, I'll start. I may finish too, but, Gary Martinson. I mentioned at the work session that I really think this should go to the people as a referendum. It's a big ticket item. It's going to impact the township for years, dollars, and potentially the whole nature of the township. That said, I don't think you even need this ordinance, and I don't think this ordinance is being done for the right reason, per se. And I say that because the entity that's looking for this, that wants that extra money, or that needs that extra little bit, could very easily just build the water park. But they expanded this and expanded it. They added the conference center, they added this action center. So you could tailor that off, just build the water park, see how that goes, and then do the other pieces. Then you don't need that. Also, they were able to build Grand Cascades Lodge and didn't need it. They've done Red Tail Lodge and didn't need it. So what's different about this? I can't find the specific piece, but it's my understanding from what I remember that actually one of the members speaking of that mentioned the fact that part of the reason why they wanted it this time was, and they were able to do the Grand Cascades, was because this allows better profit. Now, that's the wrong reason. Also, if you're looking at this as a redevelopment and you're doing this, they need this money to do redevelopment, they're not willing, or they said they weren't going to work on the Appalachian. They don't want to spend the money on that, though it needs it, according to themselves. They're going to do this instead, which will enhance that. They mentioned at the one session that they gave to the township that they're not going to work on the Cobblestone Village, which definitely needs the redevelopment. So basically what we're doing is we're enabling a developer to build brand new spanking stuff. And again, for that, they don't need it. They can get that without this, enough funding. The last piece that I have that I'm really very uneasy about is the fact that if you put it at 28 million, this extra 28 million, and you say an investor, that's very unlikely. An investor is not going to go after this. What's going to happen, if you watch Shark Tank or if you do any finances of yourself, the one thing this town doesn't seem to like to do is you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So one investor is not going to do that. There are going to be multiple investors. Now, if those, let's say, break that out to 1 million apiece, that's 28. Now, with the proposition that you can have, if they're foreign investors, 10 per each, that's 280 people that would have to be allowed to come here and or would be possibly guaranteed, according to the speaker at the time, full-time jobs. If it's only 500,000, double that. Wrong thing.
Anyone else wish to speak? May I have a motion to close the public hearing of ordinance 1416?
So,
I just listened to Martin, sorry, Robert Oliver, Downhill Road, Vernon. Just listened to Mr. Martinson, and he seems to have his facts about immigrant visas for people who invest in projects completely wrong. If in fact you invest $1 million in a project and you provide 10 jobs for local people, you might get an immigrant visa. It's not that you bring in 10 relatives with you, you know.
Not relatives, foreign.
Not even far.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing of 1416. Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second? Second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1416?
I'd like to have some more discussion, by the way.
Okay, we can, right after the second, we
Sure.
can discuss it.
I'll second it.
Can we have a motion first?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Wetzel. Okay, comments?
I don't recall Hardiston ever doing this with all the development that Mountain Creek or Crystal Springs did there. It's one of my comments. And I just wanted to, I know Mr. Wetzel brought up splitting hairs, and at one other point, when we were discussing the water park, he brought up trying to compare a 30-year pilot to a mortgage. So I'd like to compare it to a mortgage to you. When you pay off a 30-year mortgage, at some point, your principal and your interest start to change. You start to pay off more principal than interest. Usually, that's what should be happening with this, not what is proposed. So when it's up to 30, what's coming down this pike is wrong for this town. And that's what I just wanted to use your own analogies back on you so you could understand when you talk about splitting hairs, you really need to investigate what is coming down this line. They're looking at something that's strict down for 30 years, no changes. And that's not the best for the town. It's about, and not to, but maybe just to get off the track, just because you are here, John. Something I wanted to, it goes back to, it goes to the water park that really doesn't come into play a little bit with this ordinance, but it could. And I just want to understand correctly. When and if the project does get approval for the water park. Is it my understanding that the town assessor, the tax assessor, Lynn, would then go do an assessment of this project?
So, as I understand, again, this is a couple steps down the road, but at the time when you're negotiating a financial agreement, there's two methods in the statute as to how you value the pilot. You're looking at the second method here, the 2%. And yes, the tax assessor assesses it, but assesses it on a cost basis. And that's a distinction for tax assessors, but the statute specifically provides for the cost of the project. It's defined in the statute, materials, labor, other incidentals.
Right, so that's one way that she could in fact assess it.
She's required to.
She's required to.
She's required to use the cost approach with the way it's defined in the statute if you're going to use the 2% formula.
So when she does that, like what we've been told now is that the land on this, where this project is proposed, we get $15,000 worth of taxes a year on that land. Now, once she does her assessment, the value of that land would go up significantly, because wouldn't they be looking at that land with the project on it now?
Sure.
Okay, so it's my understanding, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm accurate, but at that time, is it true that at that time, the town would then have to pay the school board and the county based on the tax amount from that land? Is the abatement on the project but not the land? So let's just say let's say she assesses at $200 million, and $40 million she assesses the land now. The value of the land would go up with this project on it. We would then have to pay, or would we have to pay the school and the county their appropriate amount based on that land?
No. The project will then be defined as encompassing the site it sits on and the improvements.
But the land is not going to change?
If the land changes, it will be encompassed in the abatement and in the financial agreement.
Right, but is there a value on that land? Is the value, the tax, the amount, and if the land is assessed at $100,000 now, will the assessment on that land change once she does her assessment?
Yeah, I don't know how the tax assessor is going to put it on her SR1 card. I can't answer that for you, but I can tell you that the lot and block and the value of the land and the value of the improvements will all be defined as the project and will be exempt if you were to grant it and would be governed by the financial agreement.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think what needs to be recognized is that the size of this project is nothing that this county, or certainly this town, has seen. You're looking at a project that will dwarf the next largest taxpayer, next largest rateable in the county, which is, I believe, selective risk. And it will, in my estimation, provide significant revenue for the township, to the extent that once this building goes online, there are 3 mitigating factors that should be remembered. One is that you have a constant stream of tax. We know what that's going to be. 2, the additional excise taxes that would be experienced due to the increased revenue from room rentals, supply, and this would be reimbursed from the state. And 3, the offset for the contractual requirements that our municipal authority is contractually obligated to make in about 2 years, I believe. Once that period kicks in, the municipal authority will go from net negative at that point, because the contract that was negotiated required us to provide certain gallonage, which the township was not able to meet. And that wasn't anything done by this council or preceding members of this council. It was done by previous administrations. But once this goes online, we immediately move to a net positive, and those contractual requirements are met. So it becomes, in my estimation, a benefit for this town.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to answer Ms. Jean. Your company and most of the other real estate companies, not only in this town, but other towns, are pushing the 30-year mortgage. And for people who don't have a 30-year mortgage, that started out with a 20 or 25, probably now have a 30-year mortgage because many of them have refinanced their mortgage. And so in essence, they are not paying off their mortgage faster, as should be when you buy a car and you get a 6-year loan for your car, all your interest is paid up front, and near the end, you start paying off the principal. Well, for a lot of people, the amount that they're paying on their principal with their new mortgage is not a lot.
And a lot of people did not refinance, they paid off their mortgages. And they took care of their debt. But this, getting into this, and actually, and another point with these, is that even if it were a 30-year, even if it were a 30-year program, after, once you get to year 15, we should be then at least collecting 75% of that tax dollar, staying in town and not paying out. It should never be 50-50 straight through for the 30 years. Yes, it can. It can be whatever you make it.
Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kadesh?
No.
Councilmember Murphy?
No.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 1416, moved by Mr. Rizzuto.
Okay, council comments, Councilmember Wetzel?
No, I just feel that, first of all, there is a pilot program, which is a government program sponsored. There are farm assessment programs, which are government sponsored. And the farmer, like Mr. Katis, gets 2 tax bills. He gets 1 tax bill for his farm, which is, and 1 tax bill for 1 acre for his house. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. All he has to do is produce $1,000 in either lumber, hay, cattle, you name it. And all that property, all right, gets 1 simple tax bill. The pilot program, basically, in my opinion, is the same thing. It's a government-sponsored program that is perfectly legal, which gives business an opportunity to expand in this town. This is the biggest thing in this town in a long, long, long while. And so that's why I would vote for it.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
No, I can only echo my fellow councilman, good friend, Mr. Wetzel's comments. In fact, it should be nothing new. My position on this has been quite clear since I ran, not once, but twice, and took office, that I feel that the only way this township is going to find a way to maintain or to reduce taxes and to break a trend is to encourage growth within the community, commercial growth. We are not going to move out of this problem of rising taxes or a trend towards rising taxes, no matter how good a job our mayor has done over the past 3 years. The pressures on that become too great, and we need support from ratables in terms of additional funds in that particular area. So it's my feeling that this decision to support a commercial ratable in a recreational leisure type of business is nothing more than a confirmation and affirmation of what this township has decided quite a number of years ago when these ski areas became one of the largest taxpayers in the communities. I really think that this project will benefit the community. For those who feel that, it's not going to succeed, I would strongly question anybody's motivation to invest $140 million without first doing due diligence and putting that type of capital at risk. I don't think a smart businessman would do this on a whim without having some good idea as to the success of a project of this magnitude. And just to reiterate, I think the project of this magnitude is going to be a phenomenal benefit to the community in terms of the types of jobs that it will open up in the area for contractors in the construction phase. And not to say that the unions are going to get involved. I don't know how it's going to be done. I can't say even that only, who's going to be given jobs. I can certainly say that the availability of employment is going to be there to a certain degree. And certainly after the facility is open, I think there's an opportunity then for anybody from youth to adult to go from part-time employment to full-time employment based upon what type of a project this is going to become. On that basis, I would hope that the next phase is examined very closely by the council, and I'm very confident that our mayor will act on our behalf as he always has and come to us with a developer's agreement that is in our best interest as well as the best interest of the applicant. Thank you.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Well, there's much that you've said that I would agree with, but there's certainly a lot that I disagree with. The prospect of fostering a 30-year tax abatement for a project that brings little to the public benefit but traffic, water consumption, and exclusive clientele to our quiet town makes me pause and shiver. Why does this ordinance require a 30-year abatement? What study established the length of time as a benchmark? We've had no study showing that to be the case. In fact, we've been shown no studies at all. As an enabling ordinance, we're now tied to a 30-year abatement, and only 30 years. Some projects may require only 5 years. It not only places a great burden on non-abated property taxpayers, but it also eliminates any flexibility for future budget planning by our town managers. Bankers and investors stated that the proposed project is too risky for them to underwrite without a municipal tax abatement. If it's too risky for them, maybe it's too risky for Vernon. The only expert who's explained his opinion about this ordinance is Mr. Urson, who admitted that he's never written an ordinance for a project as big as this. But that's from a legal point of view, not a financial point of view. We've had no expert witnesses testify to the viability of this project. We've only had a wish list that the developers wanted, and lo and behold, our council gives it to them. In my opinion, this council is remiss and negligent with a lack of due process and due diligence. The work session was a sham, an empty vacuum of information. There were no summations, no recommendations, no negative points, such as what would happen in a bankruptcy. There are no underlining requirements, such as per-unit contributions toward our COA funds. We haven't even had a financial impact study done to determine what abatements in Vernon are fiscally beneficial. So in my opinion, tonight's Ordinance 14-16 represents an open season by developers on the Vernon taxpayer. This is, excuse the pun, an unabated, bald-faced benefit for the wealthy developer by those in power to give away the town's coffers. The only give back to Vernon is $1.24 million carrot that is basically buying off the town power managers at the expense of the Vernon taxpayer. In my opinion, past administrators were reaching and misguided to enact redevelopment zones in Vernon in the first place. Abatements in general are intended for the urban blighted, the river edge conversions and modernization, or factory residential conversions, some of which I've been involved in, which were intended not for rural new development in which the need had not been proven. So 14-16, we continue down the road with another poorly conceived scheme, just like the town center, a no-brainer with a no future. This enabling ordinance will set the tone and the conditions for other abatements. I can't support this unless we made these changes. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Murphy?
Well, I've listened time and time again about many of the accomplishments of councils, of the council and the mayor, and what I'd like to point out is that this council is quick to point out, and the mayor's quick to point out of all the accomplishments, but a lot of these accomplishments were made with taxpayer dollars. It was the use of taxpayer dollars that allowed some of these things to happen. But in going back to this ordinance, it's the way you go about things. And in my estimation, the saying, my way or the highway, that's really what Vernon taxpayers, that's what Vernon's getting. Because the mayor himself said, if we don't give Mountain Creek this, they won't build it. I say, so what? You know what? You negotiate. You don't just drop everything and say, we're going to give you exactly what you want without any negotiation. Having the ordinance be up to 30 years doesn't mean that the 30 years wouldn't be good for them. It all depends about the negotiations. But this is not negotiation. This is just giving them whatever they want.
Corporate welfare.
And then as far as talking about jobs, many of these jobs, they're going to be minimum wage, and I'm sure we've all seen the newspaper articles that people cannot survive on minimum wage. And I'm sure that was in the Herald, that was throughout the state. They do not survive. And as far as jobs turning into full-time, that's not happening. You have to pay medical benefits and all the other items that come along with full-time jobs. So that's just not happening. Will there be a lot of part-time? Will there be a lot of part-time people that can work part-time year-round? Sure there will, if it actually comes to fruition. Because remember, this company, they can actually turn around and sell this whole project once they get their approval. And as far as, saying, there's going to be a lot of jobs, when they did their presentation over at the Appalachian that day for us, somebody asked, are these jobs going to local places? Who are these jobs going? I think the one comment was that, I won't repeat what the resident said, but as a businessman, Andy Mulvihill said, they'll go to the lowest bidder. And that will be from wherever they come, wherever state, wherever those employees come from, that's where they're going. They're not necessarily going to employees here that live in town that have no jobs. And they'll be able to stay, maybe then they'll be able to fill up the Appalachian because they'll have employees staying there. That's all I have to say. Oh, actually, I'd like to make a motion to put our council meetings on the website. I think it's about time. I'd like to get our council meetings on our township website so the public can actually see them for themselves without having to go to third-party internet providers or wherever. I mean, this is something, these are council meetings, it's a township website, we pay, we have a franchise or whatever to have them filmed. They should be available on the township website for everybody to see.
Second.
Oh, it is in your hands. It is in your hands. It's
I'd like
not
to
out of
make
your hands.
I'd like to make a motion that we table it until we find out what it takes to do it, and then we will go
It takes,
forward.
actually, you know what it takes to do it? It takes to do a YouTube, just like the mayor's show is now. I've already looked into it. I've had the discussion with Mr. Kelly. It takes a YouTube. So it's already being done.
Motion is on the table for table.
Well, wait a minute, please. Now I need to turn at this. This motion is not on this agenda for action. And if we want to do it in compliance with law, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm saying to do it the right way. If you want to put it on an agenda and give the public notice of it.
Oh, but we can give the mayor all the ability to negotiate everything without it being on the agenda, and that's okay.
Gene, I'm only talking about this time, in this instance.
About this time, but
And
that's
I'm
the
not
past
saying not
behavior
to
of this
do it.
council.
I'm saying that to do it legally, please put it on an agenda ahead of time so everybody can consider it.
So can we put it on next meeting's agenda,
That's-
Council President?
You absolutely can.
Well, I'm making that request.
Okay.
I'll second it.
You don't need to second, it will be on the agenda, Dan. Okay. After hearing both sides, I certainly like the sound of 1.2 million as opposed to 15,500. We are moving forward with an enormous project in this town. And just because you are elected to council and you have a negative opinion of a $140 million project doesn't make you a financial guru either. Nor does it make you a financial guru to have private meetings all by yourself. I think that, for the most part, everyone needs to take a look at the information that's given them, speak to the professionals, and make their own decision, and not berate other decisions just because they don't line up with your own. Motion to adjourn.
Moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?